former Soviet countries out of NATO. Homeland Security is warning that truckers are planning a COVID vaccine protest here in the U.S. that may be similar to the one that's been disrupting traffic in Canada. The AP's Mike Hempen.
According to a copy of the Tuesday bulletin obtained by the Associated Press, the agency said the
Reverend Williams is on the line.
Reverend Williams, how you doing?
Weekend, possibly.
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, girl, I've had a week of all weeks. I can tell you that.
I know. Yeah. Are you hanging in there all right?
You know, I am. You know, my Uncle Saint said something before he left last year. He said, honey, I'm not going somewhere you're not heading. I hope.
Career is over. It ended with a fall on his final run.
And,
a few mountains away, Michaela Schifrin finally made it
there
all
was
the way
no
down
one
the
closer to
Alpine
me than
ski
my
hill,
friend
finished ninth
Candace.
in Super
And,
G.
you know, honestly,
An explosion on the doorsteps of a mosque in
looking at
northern
her,
Afghanistan this morning killed one worshiper and wounded
in that
7
casket,
others. No
you know,
word
I
on who
just said,
did
well, this
is AP News.
My girl got out of here.
Yeah.
And then, you know, this is my college roommate, one of them, and it's like, it's just, you know, it has hit everybody like a ton of bricks because she was
Researchers find that the
young and
coronavirus
healthy,
can destroy the
and
placenta and
she
lead
just had to go to the hospital.
New research
You know, she
published in
wasn't,
the
she
Archives of
just,
Pathology and
she
Laboratory
was not
Medicine
feeling
offers
well.
evidence that the coronavirus,
They took her to the hospital and she
particularly the
died
Delta
shortly
variant,
thereafter.
damaged the placenta. Researchers in 12 countries
Wow.
She died
from
right.
68 cases.
So it's just,
All
it's
involved
like an
unvaccinated
absolute
women who
shock.
had COVID during
You know, various
pregnancy
people
and
just
lost their
spoken with
baby
her
or had a
earlier
newborn
that
who died
day
soon after birth. Lead
or
author Dr. David
the
Schwartz,
day
an Atlanta
before,
pathologist,
you know.
says infections like Zika can infect infants
So,
and fetus. But
you
with
know, it's just, it
COVID-19, it was the
just makes you
placenta
go,
that was infected.
whoa,
Schwartz said he'd never seen an infection
what
cause
is
such
this?
consistent, extensive
You know?
destruction. Researchers say
So,
the theory is
Yeah.
the virus attaches to
it's just,
susceptible
you know, it's
cells
one
in
of
the
those
placenta,
things.
causing protein deposits and a form of inflammation that
You
blocked
have my
blood flow,
deepest
led to placenta tissue
know that I'm
suppression,
holding
cause of
space
death.
for
The study
you.
was done
Oh, girl, I
before the
appreciate it.
Omicron
I'm just
variant
sorry I
emerged.
missed you, but
Tanya
because
Foley,
my
AP
my
News.
cab driver who I've been riding with since
This is at 20 a.m.
2003,
WCPT Willow Springs.
he died,
Streaming worldwide at
and he was like
WCPT820.com.
family.
We are Chicago's progressive
And
talk, where facts
it
matter.
was just like boom, 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 2 over the weekend, and
Now your WCPT
then
820 Chicago
my
traffic
girlfriend died
update.
on Tuesday.
Driving eastbound
Oh,
on
roommate.
I-80
And
through
it
Manuka.
just
Watch
it
out
was
for
like,
a crash.
gotta be kidding, she
Eastbound,
what?
this is at
And I
Shepley
didn't even,
Road.
I
There's a
did not want
rollover
to
crash to the
answer
right ditch. At this point,
my
all
friend's
lanes are
text
open.
because
We'll
I
keep an
just
eye
said,
on that. There could be a lane
I
closure
don't,
when that
I
vehicle
didn't have
comes
a good
out. Right now,
feeling.
on the
And
inbound Kennedy, traffic moving
turns
well.
out,
An earlier
there you
crash
go.
in Washington cleared.
But how
Trip
did
time
everything go
O'Hare
for you
to
here?
downtown
Thank you
is
for
back
letting
down to
me
16 minutes. Outbound, it's 19.
vent.
It's a little bit of heavier traffic past Montrose. We're looking at the
Have that
Eisenhower.
opportunity.
24 minutes,
You want to
390 to downtown. Stevenson, 23 minutes.
Oh, you know, Paul, can you bring
Can
the radio station down,
Traffic
please?
is building on the line approaching downtown.
Thank you.
13 minutes from 95th.
I'm sorry, what were you
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
Couldn't hear you.
No, everything went well. You know, I always enjoyed my time in Chicago. The only regret is always it's never enough time. So.
Oh, girl, honey, look, the next time you come, I promise. Well, I'm going to try. Let me put it this. I mean, even my mother said, whew, she said, you've had a tough run. I saw her yesterday. I said, oh, yeah. I said, these few days, because I had to come in and tell her, well, you remember so-and-so? Well, and she said, wait. Because this roommate was the
1
baby.
minute.
So we were very protective of her because she came to college at 16. So we would let her go nowhere. Because, of course, we were 19 and 18. So we knew what, I don't know. Oh, boy. But we all got some good laughs out of that. We said we thought we were taking care of her. Oh, boy.
Right.
So, you know, it's just,
We prioritize social impact
you
on
know,
our
it's
work
just
throughout
one of
Chicago.
those things, honey.
5-time designated best place to work for LGBTQIA plus
Just,
human rights campaign.
okay, Paul, we're within 30?
Diversity of our clients and communities.
Correct, and we're now at 15.
Okay.
Sponsor of 50
All right. Just always give me a minute. All right. That's much more helpful. Okay. All right. Let's have a great show, everybody.
Because facts matter.
Oh, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Oh Lord, my strength and my redeemer. Thank you,
We
God.
can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy Friday, as people say. Happy Friday. I hope that you are having a wonderful, wonderful morning as you venture into the weekend. It's Friday, February 11th, just before Valentine's Day, just before the Super Bowl, just before. What a big weekend, everybody. Hope that you're getting ready for a great one. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, inheriting the reins of Air America. That's what we used to be, but we've evolved into something else, WCPT. And my brothers and sisters to the north, AM 950 radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. What a beautiful day it is. I want you to call me at 773-763 WCPT, 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. And let's talk about some football. Let's talk about Brian Flores. And they're having to address racism in the NFL. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to have some very interesting guests who are going to help you to really take back the curtain on football. Did you know the best players don't necessarily get on the field? There are a lot of politics to getting and staying on a team, let alone being the coach. So we got a lot to talk about today. And then, of course, what about these safe smoking kits that the Biden administration is trying to get out? Now, people on the right are trying to say that he's trying to give out crack pipes, and that's not true. So we will be talking with doctors Verholden and Knighton about that very, very shortly. But I want to hear from you. I want you to meet me on my YouTube channel, meet Andre, Dave Dowling, and everybody else on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, everybody. Thank you for getting on over there. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody, please like and subscribe. And everyone, Francis, Dave, and Andre, please share the show with someone, just one person today. Please do that. Everybody share the show. And meet me on my official Facebook page, which is Santita Jackson and Friends. Hey, Madeline. Hey, Michael. And hey, Maddie. Please meet me on my official Facebook page, Santita Jackson and Friends. Linda, what's going on? And as I said, please try and stream this show right now from the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. What about racism in football? Call me. I want to hear what your thoughts are. And what about these smoking kits, these safe smoking kits, trying to curb drug addiction? Well, all right, let's get to some of these headlines so we can get some good news from Pastor Tisha Williams. You know, we always love hearing from her. Everybody, it's Super Bowl weekend, and we've got the Olympics. Oh boy, what a wonderful time. Chicago, it's going to be positively balmy today. 43 degrees above zero. Scattered showers, not snow, everybody. Scattered showers. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 37 degrees. Snow showers. The Dow closed down 526 points. The NASDAQ closed down 304 points. The S&P 500 closed down 83 points. In the NBA, guess what? Minnesota and Chicago are going to meet tonight. That's right. The Timberwolves will be here in Chicago playing the Bulls. And both of our teams are getting a little time off in the NHL. There's a CNN poll that's not giving good news to the president, which does not bode well for Democrats coming into the 2022 election. According to this new poll from CNN, nearly 6 in 10 Americans disapprove of how Joe Biden is handling his presidency, with most of that group saying there's literally nothing that he has done since taking office that they approve of. Let me know what you think, everybody. The finding is from a CNN poll conducted in January and February, the beginning of this month, highlights the entrenched politics driving the nation at the start of the year. But wow, those are incredible numbers. What do you think about that? Do you feel that way? Do you want executive orders on voting rights, on justice and policing? What about inflation? What about what he's had to deal with Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin? I want to hear your thoughts, everybody. President Joe Biden is also urging Americans in Ukraine to leave the country immediately, warning that, quote, things could go crazy quickly, close quote, in the region. His comments come as new satellite images show Russia's continuing military buildup around Ukraine. The Senate passed one of the largest workplace reforms in decades, freeing victims of sexual harassment and assault to seek justice in court when they had been previously bound to closed, often secretive legal proceedings. Protests at the U.S.-Canada border are threatening supply chains and creating major disruptions now in the United States. Excuse me. Now, the U.S. is urging Canada to use America's federal powers to end the bridge blockade. What do you think about that? The truck blockade is shutting auto plants in both countries. What do you think about that? Homeland Security is even warning that Canada-style trucker convoys could disrupt the Super Bowl. What do you think about that, everybody? In the meantime, inflation has surged 7.5%, costing you $276 a month. Pastor Tisha Williams, save me, I'm about to cough. What is your voice this morning? How are you?
I'm doing well, and it's great to hear yours as well, as always.
always a joy.
It's always a beautiful voice to hear.
Oh, bless your heart. I feel the same way about you. You were just in Chicago, and I know that you blessed everybody here.
I tried. I'm prayerful. I had a wonderful time. I was sharing with the Oakdale family and Dr. D. Darrell Griffin, who was just a joy and a wonderful pastor celebrating 22 years. So I'm grateful. It was wonderful.
Oh, bless your heart. Next time you get here, when I don't have so much activity, I'm going to be with you. How about that?
Good. I can't wait. I'm looking forward.
That's right. I just love my Pastor Tisha Williams. Oh, Pastor Williams, I need some good news this morning. You know, sometimes we all need a lift. I need to see something good, right?
Yeah, and I think today I have good news and really helpful news. You know, you and I just talked about spending time together, but as Valentine's Day rapidly approaches in a matter of days,
yes,
I want to talk to people about the value of being alone.
What?
I know we always strive to be in relationship, yes, and be together. But there is a quote that says, I know what I bring to the table, so trust me when
Doctors for holding the night and on the line.
And I know that sounds good, but some of us really struggle with spending time alone. It often brings up feelings, even of us feeling uncomfortable or lonely. We're afraid of the stigma. We're afraid of what they, the elusive they, are going to think about us. Maybe we weren't capable of getting a date. Maybe we were not capable of having a relationship. Maybe we're cold and aloof. But regardless of how you currently feel about solitude, there are so many benefits to being gained by spending some time alone each day. Santita, when I first got married, I learned something very valuable. I learned that I didn't really have a life.
Before marriage or once you got married?
Once I got married, I realized just how much of a life I did not have. My husband is the kind of person that has had the same friends since kindergarten, and they go out all the time and do things all the time, and he's an avid golfer. And I can remember sitting home with a full-on attitude because I didn't believe it took 8 hours to play golf until he taught me the game, and then I learned differently. But in one of my days sitting home and sulking, I said, wait a minute, he has a life. You ought to go get you one. And that started the mission of dating myself. And so I began booking reservations and tables for one at the finest restaurants. I began going to the movies by myself. I began shopping by myself. And you know what I found out, guys? I really liked me. It was a wonderful, wonderful way to find out just who I was. I could do whatever I want. I could say whatever I want. We never fought. We always agreed on what to eat. We always agreed on when we would go, how we would go. Never had to wait for a ride. I found out that dating me was one of the best things I could have ever done. And now what it did was it actually made me a more interesting person and a better person for my marriage, because now I could bring information, stories, and excitement to my marriage that I was waiting for my relationship to bring to me. I hope that makes sense to somebody today. I want you to consider the benefits of spending some time alone. Even consider the Bible and some of the people who were forced to go alone. The woman with the issue of blood, she braved the crowds while enduring awkward and disgusted stares to press her way to Jesus. The woman at the well endured the heat of the day to press her way to Jesus. I think of even John the Baptist, who people thought was weird because he ate locusts and honey and dressed in funny clothes. But guess what? In that time alone is when he became John the Baptist. And so I want to encourage you today. I want you to consider this. First of all, you can do whatever you want. When you spend time by yourself, you can do whatever you want when you're alone. This is a blessing. If you have a spouse, if you have children, imagine you can eat what you want. You can control the TV remote control. You can take a nap. You can do anything you can afford to do without worrying about making somebody else happy. Number two, it's easier to concentrate. Have you ever noticed how much more you get done when everyone else is out of your hair and you have a moment of solitude? Being alone is a great time to tackle some of the projects and things you have on your plate. Solitude, you learn more about yourself. It's much more difficult to be self-aware if you never spend any time with yourself. Can I repeat that? It's a whole lot more difficult to be self-aware when you don't spend any time with yourself. You can also become more compassionate. When you're constantly hanging out with people, sometimes we have a tendency to develop a natural feeling of us versus them. But you'll be more compassionate toward people when you spend time alone. A little solitude, here's a newsflash, makes you happier. Studies have shown that people that regularly have time by themselves are happier than those that don't. So here's what I'm saying today, and here's the good news. For those of you who don't have a date, then this is for you. If you do have a date, this is for you. Make time to carve out time by yourself. Schedule periods of solitude into your day. Having some time alone is a blessing. If you're currently able to spend some time with yourself, if you're not able to do it, make time. It's one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Your creativity will increase. You'll be able to tackle the things on your plate, and you can do what you feel like doing. And that is good news.
Amen to that. I thank you for that. That really blessed me today.
Yeah.
Because I'm a loner by nature anyway. But, you know, but I'm finding, in the pandemic, I think that a lot of people were forced to spend time alone or spend time with. And, it's really become a challenge. But, of course, Valentine's Day can make people feel like failures or successes, even though, quite frankly, you don't know what people are dealing with at home or inside of their heads.
I recently, I said home is often where people stand to lose the most. And so we ought not trick ourselves into believing that home is paradise for a lot of people. Sometimes home is the place you may need to escape from. And you said you're a loner by nature. I'm actually a loner by nurture. I nurtured myself into how to be alone.
Okay.
And I found that I'm pretty cool. I like me.
I do too.
And when you get to know yourself better, you can then better communicate to people how to treat you. When you are in a good relationship with yourself, it naturally fosters better relationships with other people. I'm a huge advocate for it, and travel alone too. That's often amazing.
Oh, I'll say this to you as I get off the phone here, as we pivot, because of course, I'd love you to stay and hear what Doctors Verholden and Knighton have to say. When I lived in New York, my parents have a home in Washington. I used to go to their home, a few times a year, just to stick my head in and say hey. And one day I decided to get off the train in Delaware. I decided to get off the train, and I found a beautiful hotel and stayed for 2 days.
Yeah.
It was just wonderful. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And, everybody take some time. As our friend, the prophetic Reverend Stephen Thurston says, have a mirror moment.
Have a mirror moment. And the best way to do sometimes is being alone. What does he say? So you can change what's within to change what's around.
Well, then, and then ladies, because we're trained to take care of everybody else, get the book, I See You, Sis. Have that mirror moment where you see yourself, really, and know that someone else sees you too. It's a wonderful, anointed book by Pastor Tisha Williams. How can we get I See You, Sis?
I See You, Sis is available on Amazon, and you can purchase it there.
Amen, amen, amen. One of these days, I just want you to come and talk about that because we need that. We need the lift. We need the lift. I'm sending you much love, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. Everybody, get the book. I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis. Go to Amazon. It's this and then some that we get from her, that we're so blessed to get from her every Sunday. Stay right here, Pastor, because you know what? There's a lot going on as we are going to be pivoting to talk about the NFL and the racism in the NFL, which is important because so many of our children play in these organized sports, and they're dealing with a lot that we don't even know about with the coaches, and then with the schools, and on and on and on and on. There's a lot going on. President Biden's administration wants to hand out safe smoking kits. What are they? They will provide grant funding. Now, mind you, with more than $1 trillion, nearly $2 trillion in the coronavirus rescue package, $30 million was allocated for programs like these that will help people with addictions. But I want to know what is going on here because people on the right have said that what President Biden is trying to do is hand out crack pipes to people. Didn't sound right to me. Jen Psaki, who's the communications director, the press secretary, said that is not what he's trying to do. So let us go to our health guru on this show, Dr. Deborah Holden, epidemiologist, associate dean of public health at Michigan State University's medical school, and of course, infection preventionist and registered nurse, Dr. Shanita Knighton. Dr. Deborah Holden, why is the administration handing out safe smoking kits? What are they? It's not a crack pipe, right? It's not a crack pipe. It's not a crack pipe.
It's not a crack pipe, but let's dissect even a little bit further, and we'll give a brief history lesson. Because remember, I'm actually trained as a drug epidemiologist. Prior to COVID, I was focused heavily on behavioral health, drugs, alcohol, mental health, and violence, community level prevention strategies. So this is all the way in my wheelhouse. The first thing I want to say is we have a long history in this country of not supporting evidence-based approaches when it comes to behavioral health. There's a lot of stigma attached to behavioral health and the various types of interventions and programs and services that we know improve people's behavioral health. Now, all the way down on that continuum is harm reduction strategies. This is a little bit different from the prevention strategies, right? We've got all these kinds of programs that we implement in schools with kids at early ages. We've got specialized programs and evidence-based programs that the government has funded to support the children of parents who are battling addiction, et cetera. And we know people can and they do recover from addiction. The federal government has just categorically been unwilling to support evidence-based harm reduction strategies, things like needle exchange programs, right? So when we were in the height of the HIV epidemic, what we realized is a lot of HIV was being spread through people sharing infected needles, right? So you inject yourself, you might be HIV positive, somebody else will use that same needle and they'll acquire HIV through that shared needle. And people just would not accept that if we could just get clean needles into the hands of injection drug users, one, it gave us access to them because we were providing a resource that they needed, that it did the community good because it did actually, we got data to prove this, reduce the rates of HIV among injection drug users. And it also was an opening to be able to get people better support and services. The goal was not to encourage people to use drugs. The goal was to increase the safety in this very high-risk population and to create openings to actually give people the opportunity to recover, right? And so the federal government has taken a very long time to get on board with strategies like that, because we have a lot of judgment around drug use, a whole lot of judgment. We don't see it as a disease generally in our society. We see it as a moral failure.
Well, hold
You
on.
brought that on yourself.
Why is it a disease and not a moral failure? What makes it a disease? I've got 2.5 minutes.
It follows all of the profile of a disease. It has a known etiologic origin. It has signs and symptoms. It causes death and disability. And there are known treatments that will cure people or heal people or allow them to recover. Those are the basic foundations of a disease. So it is a disease. It is not a moral failure.
Well,
And,
may I jump in right here?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this,
sure.
because one of the things that I saw this because I had struggled with obesity throughout my life, and I ended up having weight loss surgery. And what was interesting, well, the biliopancreatic bypass, and we'll talk about that one day, because I'm very open, and it's ironically it's the best weight loss surgery for Black and brown people, but we have the least access to it, which is its own thing, right? So I would definitely want to talk about that. But it was very interesting because this particular surgery is mainly performed in the white space. Black and brown people don't even have access to it. And for the first time in my life, Dr. Verholden and Dr. Knighton, when I went to the doctor, they told me that I had a treatable disease. I was not treated as a moral failure. Now, my father was way ahead of me on this because he'd been researching my issue for years. He said, you take after the women in my family, and I'm trying to, I see you dieting, I see you trying, and I see you losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight, gaining. And he said, for years, I felt you would need a surgical intervention. I said, well, why didn't you say anything? He said, because I knew you had to arrive at this yourself. I wasn't going to put this on you. But it was, you see what I'm saying? I mean, because even in the white community, drug addiction is treated as a disease, not a moral failure. And you have an interview with Barbara Walters, you used to, and, talk about how you worked on it and boom. We're gonna have about 7 or 8 minutes when we get on the other side, but because that is interesting.
People just want you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and figure it out on your own. But we don't treat cancer that way.
1 minute.
We don't treat genetic illnesses that way. We have a lot of judgment around behaviors and habits in people that we find undesirable. And because you dealt with the stigma, you're a beautiful woman, very smart, very intelligent. But I'm sure you face stigma and discrimination because of your race.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure there are people who have judgment, like you cheated, you got surgery. But there's an effective intervention that gives people the added tools and benefit to support their overall health.
30.
Why shouldn't those be availed to people? Our judgment and our stigma has been a big barrier for people accessing these critical services that will actually support them. We all know what it takes to lose weight. You eat less and you burn more. But that knowledge alone doesn't make the difference for a lot of people. And we're one of the most obese nations in the country. So why not bring all the tools to bear? And the other thing...
Well, hold that thought.
The weight loss thing.
No, hold that thought, because I want to get it on the other side. Because it's the fact that drug addiction is a treatable disease. A treatable disease. I hope that is landing on you today. I hope we can stop imposing a world of judgment on people who just need some support and who need some help. And the help is out here. It's out here. They say follow the science. Please do that. We're talking with Dr. Deborah Verholden and Dr. Shanina Knighton about these safe smoking kits that can save lives. They're not crack pipes that are being passed out, everybody. This is giving our healthcare professionals a pathway to people who need the support, and they can save their lives. And it might be someone you know and love, and it might even be you. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show, talking about the NFL and racism on the other side of the break as well. Back in just a minute. Oh, Dr. Verholden.
Oh, what a great analogy, Santita. What a great analogy. And when we get on the other side, the parallel I'd like to quickly draw is that when you got that weight loss surgery, there was a whole world of support and things that I'm sure you had to do to get the surgery.
Oh, yeah.
Things that you had to demonstrate prior to the surgery.
Oh, yeah.
which gave you that extra motivation and support. You probably met with a nutritionist. You got a deeper understanding of how your body works and what your caloric intake needs are and all that. A psychologist to deal with any underlying issues that might be driving it. You know what I mean? And literally, food is right in the category to me of addiction. It's right in there. You know, it's just weird because with food, you need food to survive, right? But people do battle with food addiction.
Well, you know what? I wasn't trying to put myself in it, but one of the things that struck me. Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Bill Keys.
Good morning. Good
hey,
morning.
How you doing? And Robert Patillo? Do we have Robert there? Hello? Well, hey, Bill. We've got doctors for Holden and Knighton here. We're talking about these safe smoking kits. And we're going to go to about 7:43 your time, okay? Doctors Knighton and for Holden. Okay. But, you know, I wasn't trying to put myself in it, but one of the things that was shocking was that, and I've had access to great health care, but you know what? When I went to an affluent white practice, their approach to me was completely different. Okay? I mean, completely different. It's not that my doctors did not have compassion, Dr. Deb. Oh, no. They had compassion. But it was a moral failure. There was something I wasn't doing. And they were saying, no, you have genetic predispositions. They looked at my grandmothers, both of them, maternal and paternal, but they looked at, they said, you know, there is a lot that you share with your father genetically, but you share things with your mom too, but okay. And they just tracked. And they said, no, this is a treatable disease. Yeah.
And addiction is no different. Drug addiction is no different. It is treatable. It's preventable and it's treatable.
I've never heard it described as a disease.
You can intervene early, and you can treat it. People can and they do recover from addiction. And this opioid epidemic, I think, showed us that. We missed it mostly because of this pandemic, but once HHS declared the opioid epidemic, they rolled out this 5-point strategy and all these resources. Lo and behold, the year following, we had our first reduction in opioid overdose deaths. I published a seminal paper in the American Journal of Public Health on this topic and actually got an award for this paper, and it's being wildly cited. The problem is, guess what? The only people who saw that reduction were non-Hispanic whites.
But that's my point. It was, look at it. I mean,
for Blacks and Hispanics during the same period.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, whites have diseases, Black and brown people have moral failures.
Yeah. And what people won't say is this legislation is not just about safe smoking kits. That's just literally one little line and a pretty large request for funding.
Well, hold on one second.
Yeah.
Hold on, because I want you to take it and then pitch it to Dr. Knighton. And then, you know, we're going to wrap at 6:43. Did we get Attorney Patillo?
No answer on either line.
Okay, just continue to call. Thank you so much. Stay right there. We're coming up.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
What a paradigm shift. I'm Santita Jackson. This is the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820 and AM 950 Radio, Chicago and Minneapolis, St. Paul. We're talking about safe smoking kits. We're also really doing something bigger today. We're looking at people who have drug addictions. Did you see them as people who are moral failures? You know, they're just weak. There's something wrong with them. No, the medical establishment sees them differently. The people who study illness and disease, they said, no, they have a disease and it's a treatable disease. So these smoking kits, when you hear some people raging, they're passing out crack pipes to folks. No, that's not what's happening. Dr. Deborah Holden.
Yeah, so what this funding opportunity is providing, it's a part of this big coronavirus relief package that's about $1.9 trillion. It's $30 million over 3 years for grants to community providers to provide harm reduction strategies for people with drug use in their community. It's the smoking kits is just one little piece of it. The grants and the grantees that ultimately are awarded, and that process is still ongoing, they will undergo peer review. So people like myself will be reviewing those grants. I wouldn't even be surprised if I get tasked to be a reviewer for these. These applications were just due on February 7th, and this is exactly the kind of grant programs that I review. Nobody would submit a grant and use the $400,000 each year for $400,000 worth of smoking kits. They just won't. There'll be a comprehensive set of evidence-informed harm reduction strategies, and they gave them a menu of options to choose from. So there'll be a lot more than smoking kits happening, and I would envision most of the applications probably won't include that because they've got other more robust harm reduction strategies that they'll be putting forward. Things like syringe exchange, overdose medication being widely distributed in communities. We know that putting Narcans in the hands of communities actually helps prevent overdose death. And when people actually have an overdose, it's like this moment oftentimes, and we now have an evidence-informed approach on how
Attorney Patillo on the line.
assisted drug treatment when they're in the hospital, when they're in the ED. So this will support a comprehensive set of strategies that might include, for some people, distribution of safer smoking kits because, you know, injecting yourself with dirty needles, smoking out of, you know, unclean pipes, all of those things are contributing to the public health burden of addiction and diminishing the likelihood that people will recover from their addiction. Because they also then face other health challenges related to their drug use.
Well, let me ask you, because people have a lot of questions, and I need you to give me some quick answers. Donnie D says, if not crack pipes, exactly what is proposed to be given to crack addicts? He said, please describe.
Yeah, that will vary by community. But people will get things like potentially, right? And again, we rush to judgment. What we really need to do is look at what are the programs and the grants that they actually fund and talk about it from reality and what's so. See, this is called, if you really want my opinion, I think this is racism at its finest. I think the conservative media picked up that one piece because people associate crack use with Black people. But I want to let people know 60 to 70% of all crack cocaine users are white. But our system is unfair. So more like 80 to 85% of people adjudicated in the criminal justice system for crack cocaine-related offenses are Black and Hispanic. We are way overrepresented in the criminal justice system because of unfair targeting of Black and brown people through drug laws. The laws themselves are not inherently racist, but how they get operationalized is. So that line, to me, was like cloaking this really racist statement that the government is giving out crack pipes to Black people, Black and brown people, for racial equity.
Well, let me give
you kind of offensive.
Well, let me give you something else. Alina has said, okay, we need to stop making excuses for poor, bad choices of people who do things to harm themselves. She said, I'm sorry my father was an alcoholic. That was a choice that he made. He chose to drink. I do not drink because I choose not to. And I hear her. But, you know, a lot of people who are alcoholics also have an issue with sugar, right? I mean, how would you answer her? Because, you know, and I'm sure, with all due respect, that that having an alcoholic parent was traumatizing and it was painful.
Sure. Yeah. And what I really wish was that her dad had access to what he needed to heal himself. You know, a lot of times people are self-medicating with drugs and alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Alcohol just happens to be a legal drug, but alcohol has a lot of neurotoxicity associated with it, and heavy alcohol use is linked to a litany of health problems, including shorter life expectancy. But again, there's so much stigma around these types of diseases because people only see them as a choice. And the reality is, once addiction actually sets in, people die in alcohol withdrawal. People die in drug withdrawal. Once your body will preferentially prefer heroin over its own natural neurochemicals, you're in a world of trouble. That's the time when we need to, even before that sets in, we need the kind of supports that these new programs are offering to give people access to what they need to, one, maintain their health or at least maximize their health during these periods of addiction, and to get them the supports and services that they need to recover.
Well, just,
And people can and they do recover.
and they need the support. Next week when you come back, I want to stretch this conversation out because we need to do this. But I would like to know from Dr. Knighton, as someone who's been a registered nurse. You've been on the floor with people. What do you make of these measures that the administration is pushing to help mitigate drug addiction and death?
So, good morning. I just want to first, Santita, even before I mention the nursing aspect, I want to say that the headlines at first got me, and I had to literally retract it and go back and look at, tell Dr. Deb, okay, I misread. But I think it's very upsetting, the fact that you have leaders. I'm talking about political leaders that were voted into office that have a responsibility to the people to get up there on TV and lie and spread a false narrative when they have a powerful voice, and for media to repeat it and for media to not retract it. So I think that that's very upsetting, and it's also very damaging, right? Especially for, a people that is trying to trust the same system, right? Especially when we're talking about vaccines and other things, it's people, now that questions the actions of our leadership when we have irresponsible leaders that lie. Because it did end up being just a blatant lie in regards to the objective.
Mm-hmm.
So the other piece is when it comes to healthcare, I see it from two sides. I've actually been on that side of working with friends. I remember being a nurse, 25 years old, and I had two friends that overdosed, like nurses, because our jobs were so stressful, being on the floor, being subjected to what they call when nurses eat their young, right? So us having the stressors of our job, and literally me losing two friends that were my age, me looking to the left and the right of me, one black and one white, because one hurt her back on the job and started to steal opioids out of the Pyxis. And then once they fired her, they didn't help her. They didn't offer her any treatment. They actually reported her to the board. The other one didn't have a chance that was white. So my issue that I have, and I'm sure that there are plenty of nurses that can speak to this, is the fact that there was this notion that pain is whatever the patient says it is. So whenever literally you have this pain scale that's supposed to rate a patient's pain level from 1 to 10, but as a nurse, you know that there's something emotional, social going on that's contributing to that level of 10 pain opposed to the actual condition itself. But you're literally trying to protect the patient to not, give them certain meds. You have CMS or our leadership that's more concerned about satisfaction scores than us actually doing what's right for the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that may mean dosing them up with a lot of medications. Some of these same medications that are in the hospital, sadly enough, the only thing that's changing them is maybe one chemical from making them street versus making them a hospital drug. And that's the honest to God truth.
Sure.
So I'm not getting ready to, so when we look at somebody that's being given, let's say, some Percocets inside of the hospital and they addicted when they go home, but they can't get that prescription. So then they like, you know what, this is so close to, a heroin, or this is so close to shooting up this, or this is so close to wet, or whatever is on the street. They literally are going to resort to those drugs to get in the next best feeling.
Sure.
And so when you look at situations like that, it becomes very disheartening because you are seeing this. And when it does come down to drug addiction, just as you said, just because I have a patient that's being treated for something else may not necessarily mean that they have that problem. And we're not treating everybody equitably when it does come to that. And I have been a victim of being accused of almost seeking drugs because my epidural needle came out of my back while I was on the operating table, but nobody thought to check.
Well, Black women are the invisible patients, right? I mean, there's so much mixed up in this. The judgment, the world of judgment that's heaped upon people of color, women, and on and on and on. When we come back on Monday, I want to explore this in greater depth because race, racism, misogyny, all of that impacts how people are treated. And quite frankly, I think the solutions to our problems. Some people get treated for drug addiction. Some people get imprisoned for it. Okay? So we need to look at that and deal with that. Dr. Deborah Furholden, an epidemiologist, Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University. I didn't know this would have you this wound up this morning, but this is great stuff. And we're going to be talking about this on Monday. Just get ready for it. Get ready for it, because we're going to talk to some people about addiction being a treatable drug addiction. Let me be very specific. It's a treatable disease, a treatable disease. And maybe if we understood that, we would treat people with compassion, understanding, and love, because that is what people need. That is what they need. They don't need your judgment. Keep on judging people. You're going to get it one day yourself. Please don't do that. Love you, Dr. Deborah Furholden and Dr. Shanina Knighton. But stay right here. You know the Super Bowl is coming. You know you want to hear this conversation, and you know you want to hear Mike Drop Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director of Rainbow Push, and of course, host of his own show on WAOK, the iconic radio station in Atlanta. And from 1 to 4 every Sunday, Eastern Standard Time. And I have someone new to our family here, someone he's really part of my own family, someone I've known since, well, he was a kid and I was just going into college. How about that? He went to high school with my brothers, but they played Division I football at UVA, but he kept on going. He was a defensive end and starter for the Cavaliers of UVA, but then he went on, and tried out with the New England Patriots and the Washington football team, and the Washington Post wanted him to write for them, and he could have ended up on TV because he's so handsome. No joke. He's done so much, but now he's a film producer. But no one has explained contemporary football and contemporary sports in greater detail and with greater truth, quite frankly, than William Keys, than Bill Keys. It's welcome to the show, Bill Keys and Attorney Patillo. It's great hearing your voices today.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning. You know, Bill Keys, we see Brian Flores and, an outstanding coach who has really put himself out here, Robert and Bill. He is calling out the NFL for its racism, and he has the makings of a class action suit. I read his legal complaint, and it's stunning. He is bringing, as people say now, the receipts. He's very detailed, very specific, and he's dealing with what people have observed. I mean, just an industry-long problem. We'll have Jack Silverstein joining you at the top of the hour. The NFL started with black players, but during the Depression for 12 years, they refused to let black players in the league, and on and on and on. Are you surprised by his claims of racism and of certain positions being exclusively given to white people, like coaching, like being a quarterback, and on and on and on? Were you surprised by anything you've heard from him? Bill Keys?
Yeah, I was not surprised because I'm aware and I've experienced that a lot of people feel that sports somehow exist outside of just society and what we're experiencing in society and those mores. And it seems to be because the assumption is if you meet a certain standard and a certain level of excellence and you perform, then those mores don't matter. It's just about how, your 40-yard dash, how you catch, how you block, how you run. But no, as someone who's personally grown up playing football, been in the system, Division I, and kind of on the bubble in the NFL, the same people are subject to the same issues, the same stereotypes, and the cultures in which they were raised.
So, what are some of the things that you've seen that would make you not be shocked by what Brian Flores has said?
Well, the fraternity of football, which I'm very much a product of and supportive of, has subsets. So adult coaches who are coaching, anywhere from 15 to 20-something-year-old men who are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, were 30 years ago playing football somewhere in the South, Midwest, Northeast, and they are products of their environments. And so although they are working with men from different backgrounds, different races, different creeds, they bring with them their prejudices and their stereotypes. So in addition to judging young men on the field, you see the stereotypes of, and I'll just give one example, the talented African-American player versus the Magic Johnson versus the hustling, smart, but less physically gifted white player. And again, it's never black and white like that, yet you see coaches who admire and are very openly verbal about it, admire the hustling, thinking player as opposed to the talented player who doesn't execute as well. That's just a single example. Who a player dates off the field or hangs out with or is seen with around the locker room, around the athletic department. That's another factor and something you see at play. Down to their families and how coaches and families interact with each other. All these things you see come into play, and I've now moved away, been away from the game long enough to actually confirm just in larger society. And I've personally seen later in life how some of those things have come out once we all have moved away from the field, from the athletic department, and you see proof and assurances of those beliefs and prejudices in practice.
I mean, are you saying that there's some players are liked better? I mean, because let's keep it 100. A lot of the top tier players, black players, date white women. Does that help them or hurt them?
Certainly can hurt. It can't help you in the sports world. And what I mean by that, and I should explain, there's no benefit to dating outside your race in sports. So coaches don't say there's no such thing as I like him because he dates X, Y, or Z. But certainly a coach who carries a prejudice, who notices a player date someone that he would prefer they not, that coach will then carry their prejudice forward. So there is no positive in it, but there can be, depending on the coach, a negative in it. And that is something I've seen.
Well, can't there be a positive if this is a high-profile, high-earning player, and you know that basically he's going to be pulling his wife in, right? And you will see less of the black family, more of the white family. Or am I reading too much into this?
I'm not. Say that again.
Well, I mean, because wives run the show. Let's
right.
They run the show, and it just seems to me that the O.J. Simpsons are embraced more. And he didn't lose any points when he left Marguerite Simpson for Nicole Brown. He just continued to grow. Herschel Walker in the Deep South was dating a white woman who he ended up marrying. I don't object to interracial marriages or interracial relationships at all. We're just looking at the politics of sports. Stay right there. Bill Keys. We're talking with Bill Keys, who was a Division I player at UVA, tried out for the Patriots and the Washington team, really understands the politics of sport, and I'm so glad that he's with us today. Robert Patillo, it seems that Brian Flores is helping us to get into the politics of sport. Never thought that politics was in sport, as Bill Keys said. Bill Keys says, look, politics, it's everywhere. What do you think?
Well, I think it's politics, it's nepotism, it's a good old boy system. It's never been about who is going to be the best at something. The fact that, let's look at this way, the fact that Deion Sanders is coaching at Jackson State, and God bless him for doing so. And then you have, let's say, Zach Taylor, who's coaching in Cincinnati. What exactly can Zach Taylor tell me that a Hall of Famer like Deion Sanders can't tell me? It doesn't really make much sense until you start realizing, he's somebody's grandson's son-in-law, and therefore he gets to be an NFL head coach. It's never been about talent. It's never been about ability. It's always been about connections and who you know. and who was able to do something a long time ago and pull those levers of power. So we start looking at the reality of things. The myth of the American meritocracy is in large part a conversation that crosses all lines, whether it be athletics, whether it be engineering, whether it be law. This idea that what you do individually is all that matters and you can pull yourself up by your own bootstraps is absolutely a myth. In reality, it really does matter with your bloodline, who you know, what you get. And then, what we're seeing now is that African Americans are finally having the ability to start pulling people up behind them, but it's going to take generations to catch up, and that's why you have to have ameliorative programs that are able to bridge that gap, because otherwise it'll take us 200 or 300 years to catch up to where other people are. So when people start saying that, this is complaining, this is somehow not something that we should be addressing, we are leaving hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars on the table that could be going towards helping our community if we simply say we're not going to stand up and fight for our fair share. And every time you see one of these, 32-year-old grandsons being hired as the head coach, just know that opportunity is being stolen away from somebody like a Byron Leftwich or Airbnb, or many of these other African-American coaches who are giving terrible jobs, even if they get a job, and then they're fired after 1 year. Nobody thinks Lovie Smith is going to make it more than 1 year Houston Texans. It was a sacrifice they made in order to simply say we have another black coach in the league, just as David Culley was, just as Steve Wolf was. And then they'll go back to their same old good old boy system. They let something systemically done to fight these things going forward. So we have to, I'm glad the Florida decided to do this. We all knew that it existed. It simply took somebody who was willing to stand up and fight for it. I think that this is the person willing to do so.
Well, let me ask you this. Of course, you can catch Robert Patillo on his own show on WAOK every Sunday from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. Bill Keys, I've got about a minute before we go to break. As someone who's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, would you rather have a coach who's 30, 31 or 45, 50? I mean, does it make a difference?
1 minute.
The younger, I'd rather have a coach with character. Is my short answer.
Okay.
But the younger coach presumably will have more of an understanding and presumably have more of an understanding of the young player and their mindset. That's a guess going in, but overall, with the short amount of time, my answer is I'd rather have a coach
30.
You'd rather have a coach with character. Of course, we're going to be carrying this conversation over on YouTube, on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, so stay right there. Santita Jackson and Friends, my Facebook page. We're streaming live there and on WCPT820.com and AM950radio.com. But you can't hear us. You can't hear the crosstalk during the commercial breaks unless you come to my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and the Santita Jackson and Friends page, everybody. What about racism in the NFL? How will that color your view of the Super Bowl? Now they're going to have a big love fest for hip-hop. Well, hip-hop in its current iteration, not the hip-hop that we used to own, that is, Rapper's Delight, Sylvia Robinson, and Sugar Hill Records, but other things. It's interesting what's happening. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Stay right here, everybody. Call me at 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute. You all keep on talking. You said you want someone with character. Dr. Deb and Dr. Knighton, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, Dr. Deborah Furholden and Dr. Shanina Knighton, well, you all know Robert Patillo, Attorney Robert Patillo. He knows you. But this is Bill Keys. Bill Keys is a film producer, brilliant guy, writer, and he does a lot of brilliant work. But he's also been a Division I college football player, and he has tried out for various, a couple of professional teams. And so he's gotten a chance to see inside of that particular bubble, the elite football bubble. And it is very, very, very political. You were the one who told me years ago that the best player doesn't necessarily get on the team, let alone get on the field. Why did you say what was that? Where did that observation come from, Bill?
It's because there are a surprising thing. I'll just stick with the NFL. Surprising thing about the NFL is there's a small percent of elite players who everyone knows. Right now, Mahomes and, back in my day was still Tom Brady, Mahomes, except, everyone remembers Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders. There's a middle tier, and some of the middle tier are well known and famous, maybe because they're characters and maybe because they're performing well. But that middle tier is extremely competitive. So players in coaches' eyes are fairly interchangeable, except for the few or several elite players who can actually change a team. So to that middle tier, you would be surprised.
Mr. Silverstein needed 15 minutes. I'll call him back then.
To be elite, and then when you actually physically grapple with the person, you realize they're not that different from you. Your confidence quickly goes up, and you start to compete. So most of us are working and competing in that middle tier. Coaches have the benefit of being able to discard or keep the majority of the players at will. And that's where what comes in is bias. That's my simple explanation. Because you still promote, there are only a few Deion Sanders, Tom Brady's, and Peyton Manning's. So you still have to promote an all-pro offense that's 11 guys on offense, an all-pro defense that's however many guys on defense. And so there are a lot of names, but the mid-tier, which they're still best in class and best in the world, but someone in the middle of the mid-tier at the bottom can get up to, can be elevated if he's in the right position and on the right team and he gets the opportunity. But coaches can play, quote unquote, forgive the pun, with those players. It's just like trading cards. They can trade them, they can diss them, they can end their careers and make it very difficult for them. So then whim and prejudice and personal interest come into play. But the presumption from the sports fans is, oh no, Bobby Smith is one of the best in the league. No, again, with the exception of some extremely elite players who can really change a team, the rest are role players and therefore subject to the volatility of a football administration, football coaches, and football politics.
Now, many people don't think politics are in this, but they really are. My father has a wonderful analogy because sports was a way out for him, a way out and a way up. That, people love sports because, the playing field is even, the goals are clear, the rules are clear. And you said that's mostly true, but not all the way true.
Yeah, well, if a coach is middle-aged and he played, then he played with men who are now coaching other teams in the NFL, men who are coaching college teams. So with the exception of the first several draft picks every year coming out of college, if several other or if the rest of the pool is fairly interchangeable, I still want to know how many times a player bench pressed a certain amount of weight, how fast his 40 time is. But I'll take the player from University of Michigan, where my college roommate is the head coach, as opposed to the player from UVA, who's a step faster or a little stronger or necessarily smarter, quote unquote. It's just I'm going to go with my guy because I want to develop a rapport and I want more and more players from there, and we want to help each other. that's just a part of the fraternities, the allegiances, and the prejudices of sports.
Can I ask a question?
I've got a minute.
So,
Yes.
okay, so in terms of like the act, like being internally, and, like,
1 minute.
Well, hold on. Shanina, would you mind asking
Yes.
the question on the air?
Sure.
Okay, I appreciate it. We're about to come back up, but I have a feeling that this is going to be a question of great import. But, for those of you who have children who play sports, all of this stuff really matters. It really does. Because, even the way that they recruit our young people, they recruit children of single moms differently than they do when they see a father in the home. It's a very different, we need to look at that. All of this.
Completely different dynamic.
Okay. So let's
15.
let's definitely talk about that. Hold on.
Five.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy Friday, everybody. Super Bowl weekend. We're going to be talking about football, the NFL, the charges of racism. What do you think about all this? The charges of game fixing. There was a whole lot that Brian Flores has introduced, but are you really surprised? Some people are, some people are not. Let's talk about it at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. How much do our own societal biases and prejudices impact who gets on the team, who gets cut, who stays, who gets a C-suite job, who gets a job after their career's over, who is a coach, who's not a coach? Wow. Let's talk about it on the Santita Jackson Show. Call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. And you can meet me on my official Facebook page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page, the Santita Jackson and Friends page, and on my YouTube channel. Please meet me over there. The Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. If you go to those two places, you can hear our crosstalk during the break. Let's get to some of these lines so that we can get right back to the rest of the show. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 43 degrees. Scattered showers, everybody. 43 degrees above zero, that is. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 37 degrees above zero. Snow showers. The Dow closed down 526 points yesterday. The NASDAQ closed down 304 points, and the S&P 500 closed down 83 points. In the NBA tonight, Chicago and Minneapolis, St. Paul are going to be facing off. That's right. The Timberwolves will be here in Chicago playing the Bulls. And our NHL teams have the night off. The CNN poll is not giving good news to the Biden administration. Nearly 6 in 10 Americans, 58%, disapprove of how President Biden is handling his presidency, with most of the group saying there's literally nothing that he has done since taking office that they approve of. What do you think? 773-763-9278. Why are his ratings falling? We're going to be talking about that next week on the Santita Jackson Show. The Senate passed one of the largest workplace in decades, freeing victims of sexual harassment and assault to seek justice in court where they had been previously bound to closed, often secretive proceedings. President Biden is urging Americans in Ukraine to leave the country immediately, warning that things could, quote, go crazy quickly in the region. And the protests at the U.S.-Canada border are threatening supply chains and creating major disruptions on both sides of the border. Access to 3 border crossings in Michigan, North Dakota, and Montana have been cut off by truckers protesting COVID-19 vaccine mandates and other rules, prompting the Canadian government to send additional officers and resources to demonstrations throughout the country as those demonstrations spread. Indeed, the U.S. is urging Canada to use their federal powers to end the bridge blockade as auto plants in both countries are being shut down. What do you think about this, everybody? Homeland Security is warning that a Canada-style trucker convoy, could disrupt the Super Bowl because indeed they're expecting those same uh, truckers, truckers on both sides of the border, to be in sympathy with the truckers in Canada. So we're going to see how this is going to cost. Higher inflation, 7.5%. We haven't seen anything we haven't seen this kind of spike in inflation in 40 years. Well, guess what? It's probably costing you $276 a month. That's a lot of money, everybody. That's a lot of money. So let's get right to it. You know what? As we get into the rest of the show, I want you to call Team Hochberg. If you want to purchase a new home, if you want to refinance your existing home, if you want to secure a VA loan, if you need a reverse mortgage, they are your trusted lender. More than 300,000 African Americans have had to move out of Chicago because we could not afford to keep up our homes. We could not get access to capital to keep our homes or even to buy homes. What about these 2 and 3 flat buildings that are in your neighborhood? Do you know that with some guidance and some elbow grease, you could own those buildings? Yes, you could, everybody. Think about Manny, 40, project manager, income $70,000 a year. Now that's a lot, but it's hard to stretch that money in these times. And he was called to get pre-qualified and to purchase a home, except he had this problem. He was carrying $20,000 of debt on his credit cards and did not have a down payment. So he called for a free consultation. Now, mind you, he did not have a down payment. He had $20,000 of debt on his credit card. Well, they have a loan officer, Jose Rodriguez, who created a plan for Manny to pay off his debt, save for a down payment so he could purchase a new home, and he was able to do that. Before he called Team Hochberg, he could not qualify to purchase a home. 4 months after working with Team Hochberg, he paid off his debt and he'd saved for a down payment. And that could be you. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com, 56david.com. If you don't have credit, if you have poor credit, if you're trying to build credit, if you have tremendous debt, they can help you. Call them at 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. Let us talk about what is happening in the NFL. Brian Flores, the former coach of the Miami Dolphins, has opened up a can of worms, but has he really? Has he simply exposed what many of us have already known? I want you to call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT, as we talk with Bill Keys. Who is Bill Keys? Bill Keys has been a Division I player at UVA. He's been a Virginia Cavalier. He's tried out for the New England Patriots and the Washington team. He was pulled into the Washington Post to be a sports writer. And then he went to work for Reverend Jesse Jackson because he wanted to do something that was socially relevant. Okay, well, now he's a film producer, but he's had a tremendous array of experiences. And we welcome him back to the show, as we are going to be welcoming Jack Silverstein, Chicago historian, at Read Jack, onto the show shortly. Someone who pointed out in 2019, hey, as we are celebrating the NFL, let us not forget they excluded black players for 12 years. Bill Keys, let me bring on Dr. Shanina Knighton. She wanted to hold on because she had a question for you. Dr. Knighton, your question, your thoughts.
Yes. So I assume that just like with a regular job, right, that football players have a resume. So not just thinking about statistics, but thinking about leadership roles, right? So maybe that is some sort of team captain. Maybe that is, leading, the defense, in terms of a captain or an offense or something like that. Maybe it's leading linebackers, not sure. But that's my first question, is does that exist? And if that does exist, do you find that there is a discrepancy in regards to those leadership opportunities that are provided maybe to white players versus white players? And if that then plays into who eventually ends up with the coaching roles later on down the road in their career, because a lot of times these black players may not be given leadership opportunities early, to demonstrate or develop, the capability for them to lead. So how much does that play into what's happening right now in regards to them not even being at the table?
Well, Dr. Knighton, I have never been a coach, and so I should be careful in answering your question. I can speak to it a bit because I'm far enough removed from the game that, and I'm still in touch with all of the people who affected my career and my playing time. So we've had different conversations as we've all grown older and left the game. So I have the benefit of their experiences when they are a lot more forthcoming about what was going on when I was playing. So that is where I'm answering you from. So my answer, or what I will share with you, is that football in general takes into account, almost in a scientific manner, all qualities of a player, their family, their leadership capabilities, and several other, their character, in addition to their strength, their speed, their knowledge of the game, so on and so forth. They're really trying to judge all of those things. None of that, all of that is subject to when 5, 7, 10 coaches are sitting around in a room. There's a familiarity between them, the same way as there is between a boardroom at a corporation. And again, I will say again, that is when bias, prejudice creeps in and tends to counter the science. So what everyone tries to do initially, of course, the general manager, the scout, they scout for talent, they scout for certain keys and leadership, character, resume, track record matter greatly. If you were pegged or if you were put in the quarterback track when you were Pee-wee, when you were in junior high school, to specifically answer your question, then your resume is longer and better, and you were chosen to be a leader, because no one has, that is not, it's very hard to identify that the younger in age you go. So you can get tracked the same way kids get tracked in certain classes in high school, and you move into gifted and talented program. Well, athletes do the same thing, not just for talent, but for leadership. You're chosen. You didn't prove yourself yet. You just get slotted. So I hope I helped answer your question.
Yes, it does. And it was, more so about the leadership piece in regards to, are they even developed or who's chosen to be developed. But I understand what you're saying in terms of it not necessarily being an algorithm, but that there is some sort of bias that kind of goes into that.
Well, stay right there, because I think it's not a mistake. I mean, I don't think it's interesting when I think of Doug Williams, who came out of Coach Eddie Robinson, right, at Southern University. I don't think that it's an accident that he came from there, that he came from an historically black college with the winningest coach in the history of college football, Coach Eddie Robinson, the legendary Coach Eddie Robinson. It wasn't Bear Bryant, it was Eddie Robinson, everybody. And someone who believed in him, and I'm thinking back because he became, and he had to fight and he was one of the most successful college quarterbacks, as you recall, in history. But he had to fight in a way that mind you, Tom Brady was drafted. He was a low draft pick, but he didn't have to fight the same way. He didn't have to fight the way a proven quarterback like Doug Williams had to fight. And of course, when he won the Super Bowl and at the beginning of 1988, having had this great season with the Washington team, no one believed he would beat John Elway. But he threw those 4 touchdown passes in that first quarter. Yes, I do remember that, Bill Keys, because I had a Super Bowl party at my apartment. I was in college then. And Chip Brown and I had a party at my apartment. And I said, everybody, because we were infuriated by the fact that they kept dismissing, all the commentators were dismissing every touchdown pass that Doug Williams threw in that first quarter. And said, "Oh, John Elway's coming back." I'm like, "Would you acknowledge the fact that not one, not two, not three, but four touchdown passes in one quarter?" I said, "Now let me tell you what we're going to do. Everybody, we're going to call the station and we're going to complain." You understand? I mean, because it's just politics and all of this. It's, and it's politics and who they decide will be a leader, who they decide will be a coach. Because I really do believe, I don't think they want to see a lot of Eddie Robinsons in the NFL because he would shape those young men differently, I think. Or do you think I'm reaching?
No, I don't. I don't think you're reaching. I think there are a lot of people who want these positions. It's the same. It's the same in finance, same in entertainment, and again, beyond the. I think we were speaking about this during the break. There's always an undeniable. There's a small amount of undeniable elite in on the field. You can say that there are a few undeniable elites as coaches, and then there's a middle tier. And out of the middle tier, if you're in the right situation, then you can certainly rise up and become elite with your record and your wins and losses. I'll go back to what you mentioned about Brady. Brady didn't have to fight for his opportunity. He had to wait for his opportunity.
Okay.
The quarterback ahead of him, who was elite, and isn't it interesting? I don't recall his name, but he was an unbelievable quarterback. He was great at New England. Brady had to wait his turn, but when that quarterback went down, Brady stepped in and never looked back. And I think that's a distinction between fighting to get a chance to prove yourself and being in line to succeed in leadership.
We've got Jack Silverstein, brilliant Chicago historian. Really, you are a football historian. I realize Chicago's your wheelhouse, but you do such brilliant work helping us to understand the history of the NFL. And I welcome you back to the show. Go to @ReadJack, ReadJack, so that you can follow him and get some of his observations and his wonderful works. Of course, he came to my attention some time ago, but I was really drawn to his work when in 2019, he wrote a piece in which he said, as we celebrate the NFL, as we look at this wonderful anniversary, we cannot forget that for 12 years they excluded Black players. And thank you for that work. Thank you for that work. We're just talking about Brian Flores and just how his revelations really, they have shaken football. It seems like they're leaning very heavily even on the hip hop community, Jack, so that they can look. So this doesn't have to look that bad. Is it that bad? These charges that Brian Flores made about the NFL and how they conduct business?
Yes, absolutely. And good morning, Santita, and good morning, Mr. Keys. Yeah, absolutely, it's that bad. When you look at a 102-year history of the NFL, and you have 0 Black owners in that time, you have 24 Black head coaches in 102 years. You had a long wait to have Black quarterbacks in the league. And again, we talked about connecting the past to the present. You know, we know that Black quarterbacks who were successful in college were often recommended in the NFL to change position. And that has happened some with white QBs. I remember Eric Crouch at Nebraska winning the Heisman and being converted to safety. But it doesn't happen nearly as much, and it doesn't happen with nearly the high-profile players. And it was suggested a couple of years ago for Lamar Jackson after he won the Heisman and obviously went on to win the MVP. So it is a problem. It is a serious problem, and it is something that is woven through the history of the league.
What you have read through? I'm sorry. Were you going to say something, Bill?
No, just listening.
Oh, okay. You have read through the complaint, what could be a class action lawsuit. What strikes you about what Brian Flores has charged? I mean, and why has this shaken the league? I mean, I remember Joe Gilliam the great quarterback, and the challenges that he had trying to fight for his position. Thank you, Bill Keys, as a quarterback. And this was someone who had enormous talent, enormous potential, and he could not get a break in the football in the NFL, and needed a lot of support. I think of the fight for the black quarterback. I just think of the fight that black people have had in the NFL, and it's been ongoing, and it's something that no one really talks about.
Yeah, I did read the complaint. It's 58 pages. I certainly recommend that everybody read it. And what's surprising, well, obviously the new information that Flores brought is information about his particular experiences with the Broncos, Giants, and Dolphins. That's information that we didn't have. But then the rest of the lawsuit is really just laying out a comprehensive history of the NFL's racism from 1920 to the present in a number of different key areas: quarterbacking, general managers, league officials, concussion settlement, Colin Kaepernick, the whole history. And he lays it out, and it's very powerful as a document to see, even if someone like me who knew all the history, to just kind of see it laid out bare is powerful. Why is it taking hold? I mean, we'll see what kind of long-lasting effect it has. We'll see which of these coaches who were hired since Brian Flores' lawsuit dropped, we'll see if they rise through the ranks and actually end up in 2 or 3 years in a head coaching position, or if they, were able to go up a spot from a running back coach to an offensive coordinator, and then that's going to be it. We'll see how that plays out. We'll see, obviously, what the legal angle, if the class is certified, we'll see how all that gets played out. But to me, I think the reason that it's taking hold right now is that this is a couple reasons. One, this is a conversation now that's been a little bit more. I don't watch a lot of ESPN, so it's hard for me to always say what is mainstream, but it feels like the conversation around the lack of black coaches in these hiring cycles, particularly due to the success the last few years of Eric Bieniemy and Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles, I feel like it's been a little bit more top of mind, maybe for white fans, and maybe that's the difference. And I feel like it's been part of the discussion a bit more, so that when Brian Flores' lawsuit came out, maybe the media that covers pro football was a little bit more
1 minute
ready and and able to interpret its importance. But I think also it's just the power of the language in the piece itself and how bold and clear and strategic and precise and historic, how powerful it is as a document and as a statement to come out and say, I charge the National Football League, these 3 franchises, and the other 29 franchises with racial discrimination in their hiring practices.
30.
And the fact that he steps up and talks about all of these other coaches. It's not just about his experience. He lists Jim Caldwell, Terrell Austin, and a
15.
number of different coaches, Denny Green. And so I think that has to do with the power as well. You can see the way in which
5.
he's saying, I will lead on this right now, even though it could very well cost him his NFL coaching career.
Hold that
That's
thought.
a real possibility.
Hold that thought. I mean, because he's saying that he lost out on the job that Lovie Smith got because he's taken a stand.
I think Lovie Smith's hiring, I think Lovie Smith's hiring is almost certainly does not happen without this suit. I mean, they just fired David Culley after 1 year, and they were talking about looking at Josh McCown, who has 0 NFL coaching experience. He's coached in high school.
And wait a minute. And when we get back on the other side, when we get back on the other side, because I've got a hard break, I want you to tell me how that can happen. How we go past all of these great black football coaches and ex-football players, and you go to someone who didn't even have college experience. 773, 763. 9278. Call me or text me at this number. What will this color how you look at the Super Bowl? And what about hip hop being front and center? They're being asked civil rights questions. These figures in hip hop about how they're going to help the league. Will they? Back in just a minute on the Santita Jackson Show.
Let's change the world.
Gentlemen, Jack, I want you to meet Bill. I've given you each other's CVs, and I just thought I would introduce you all on the air right now. Bill Keys.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Hi, how are you, sir? I'm well.
Good.
Oh,
Good.
You men are so lovely. Hi, sir. That's nice. Oh, I love it. But both of you are brilliant, and I just thank you for being with us today, because it's I think it's a conversation that we really need to have. He's kind of dragged us kicking and screaming into it. I mean,
well, I suppose Jack will answer your question when we come back on the air. Santita, the question about how can you do this? But there are no checks and balances on the NFL. You can hire who you want, and you don't have to justify it.
well, but you can ask him the question. It's a conversation. You jump on in.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I'm saying you as you went into the break, you asked, and I think the closest thing to a check and balance is sports reporting. ESPN and sports reporting, they at least will publicly ask the question, and there's even parameters on that, because that industry wants access to the teams and its stars, and there's politics in that. If you press too much, you can get backseated and you cannot have the access. There was allegedly or supposedly a report within the last week or two on the person who allegedly witnessed Flores, the Dolphins owner, offer Flores $100K to throw games. And it was put on the website and then pulled extremely quickly. And so there have been news stories since about the fact that that story was published online and then quickly pulled, and that no one knows the name of the person that the story was not outing but revealing as a source to confirm what Flores is saying. So I don't know what's behind that, and even that story hasn't grown or spread, or at least that I know of.
well, honey, when you start talking about throwing games, that's a lot of money. Somebody's going to have some busted kneecaps. Yes, I said it, everybody. That is so. Maybe I've seen too many movies. No, I haven't. That's a big deal. I mean, look, Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame. One of the greatest players in the history of baseball, which was just ridiculous.
It's a very big deal, and there's a lot of money on the line.
All in Vegas. Let me just stop it, you guys.
Not to mention just the integrity of the league.
Well, now there's that too. There's that part. I'm just saying, come on, you guys. Busted kneecaps. Yes, I said it.
Also, not to mention, the other factor here, of course, is that this would be a huge deal at any time, but now in this era of
15.
Hold that thought.
Gambling.
Hold that thought. I want you to lead with that point, Jack. Hold on.
10.
Hold on. We're coming in hard.
5.
Do we have Sir Pearl up?
Not yet.
Okay, please bring her up as soon as you can so I can get her up.
We can change the world. change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Call me. We're at WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station. We used to be Air America, but now we are WCPT, and proudly that. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. Call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Let me know what you think about about the charges leveled
on the line.
by Brian Flores. Are you surprised by game fixing? Are you surprised by it's a league that's 70% black. There are no black coaches. I mean, how does that happen? Are there no blacks who are qualified to be coach? I mean, really, we're digging down on this with Bill Keys, the former Division I player from the University of Virginia, one of the Cavaliers. He tried out for the New England Patriots and the Washington team. He was writer for a hot second, Washington Post. They wanted him to do sports. He does so much, and now he's a film producer. He's seen a lot, and he's been helping us to see, taking us behind the curtain, if you will. Jack Silverstein, everybody. At Read Jack, brilliant Chicago NFL historian, but he's a brilliant sports writer, brilliant sports historian, and I encourage you to go to at READ Jack, at READ Jack. Follow him because he does such great work. And of course, at Be Free Keys, BFREEKEYS. And before I get back to these lovely gentlemen, let me get to you, Chaparral, because you are cooking up vittles for the Super Bowl and getting prepared for a big night in March. But first up, how can we get some of these meatballs and sliders? You know, I'm waiting for my little plate. Then I'm gonna take over with my mother and sister and dad. Okay? Yes, I am.
Yes, Santita, I am in prep mode today. I am actually getting all the supplies needed for Super Bowl Sunday, and we're going to have those hot wings, barbecue wings, sweet and sour wings, meatballs, sliders, and nachos. Don't forget the nachos. So we are actually doing some of our desserts as well, our peach cobbler, banana pudding, caramel cake. They're asking for that too. So whatever it is that you need for your party needs, don't hesitate to give us a call at 708-526-4546, 708-526-4546. But as you mentioned, Santita, we are gearing up for our first Courtney Copeland Memorial Foundation Charity Ball. That's going to be on March 5th. It's a night out. You get to unwind, dine, and dinner, and dancing. And so, but it's also a chance to give to a good cause. We're raising money for the Courtney Copeland Memorial Foundation to support all of our programs that we have, which is our college scholarships, as well as also our back to school program and our Christmas toy giveaway. So don't hesitate to go to Eventbrite, and the keyword is the Courtney Copeland Memorial Foundation to purchase your charity ball tickets. And if you cannot attend, please feel free to donate your ticket to a giving mother who has lost a child. And you can also contribute any dollar amount to the Courtney Copeland Memorial Foundation at copelandmemorial.com.
And this, of course, is in memory of your son.
Yes, my son, Courtney Copeland, was killed on March 4th, 2016. And we have basically tried to keep his memory alive because what we're doing in the foundation is everything that Courtney was doing in life. And so this is a chance for us to continue to give back because Courtney was giving back so much of his time to the community, and we want just to continue that legacy.
Amen to you. Amen to you. You want to have a comment real quick about this?
Santita, I just think that, with all sports, black and brown people have been labeled as workers.
and getting them into higher positions has always been a challenge. And so I think that what is happening in the NFL, when I was listening the other day, when they said that 70% of the players are black, it tells me that we do need to force a greater stake. And it's time to bust up this monopoly like they want to do like Amazon and all this stuff. We need to bust up the monopoly here. And because we deserve our fair share, since we are the people who are on the front line and making the billions for the industry, we need to have our stake in it as well.
Well, you know what? I tell you what, I hope that Brian Flores, I'd be shocked if he's not blackballed in the league. I hope that he'll go to an HBCU and coach, because Deion Sanders has done something. He has broken the dam, if you will. Now, when in my father's day, because my father was part of the wave, Jack Silverstein, as you know from him, and of course you know this, Bill Keys, this wave of black players who went to the big white schools. He went to a Big Ten school, University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. He had a devastating experience there. He was recruited there to play football as a quarterback. And he was also recruited by the Chicago White Sox. My father, in his day, in his youth, was quite the athlete. And he turned down the White Sox because they wanted to give him a poor contract. He said, well, I will get an education and just shelve this. But that having been said, he had a horrible experience there. It was a very, very painful experience. And thank God for North Carolina A&T, which helped him to really tap into his strengths, and he became the man that we all know today. That having been said, I see Deion Sanders opening up a whole new world of possibilities, not to mention an income stream, just opening up so many opportunities for black colleges. I mean, because these black football and basketball, as you well know, Bill Keys, these are the economic drivers at these big schools. The football and I mean, Michigan State, University of Michigan, Ohio State, they make hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, for these universities, Bill. And you don't even have black coaches there.
That is very true. The other sports, and there's so many at any given college or university, but they are not revenue drivers. They do not have huge audiences paying money, purchasing tickets. They do not sell merchandise the way that football and basketball do. So at any college or university, the revenue driven by football and basketball pay for all of the other sports and scholarships and all other costs of those sports at any given college or university.
Unbelievable. I mean, and there's Jack, there's no acknowledgement of that, of just how these leagues would not exist without these black players. But there's nothing for them to do once their playing days are over. They will not be brought into the C-suite. They're not brought in as general managers. They're not brought in as coaches, even assistant coaches. What gives? How would they? You brought up an example just before the break of a gentleman who was in front of Lovie Smith for this new position as coach. Someone who was a high school coach. Would you please explain?
Josh McCown was a long time. He would be the epitome of what we call a journeyman player. So long time NFL quarterback, but never really a starter for any long period of time. Bears fans would remember him from 2011 to 2013, and in particular 2013, Jay Cutler was injured, and McCown came in and had some really wonderful games, linking up for deep touchdowns with Alshon Jeffrey, had a really high, actually has the record for single-season Bears passer rating, although it's a fewer number of games. He famously, as the quarterback for the Cardinals, knocked out the Vikings from the playoffs in the end of 2003. So he's had a long career. There you go. He's had a long career. But he has no coaching experience beyond, as I understand it, beyond having been a coach for his child's team in high school.
Well,
And
wait. Say that again. What? One more time.
he's not. I said that he does not have coaching experience beyond high school.
773.
So to answer your question of how could Josh McCown rise in the ranks even to the point where he's being interviewed by the Houston Texans in the conversation, is that it's a closed system. There is no, as Bill Key said, there is no specific criteria. There's no specific benchmark that a coach has to hit. The owner of the football team rules the football team. So the owner selects the general manager and the other, president of football ops, however the leadership structure is done in a given organization. And they select the head coach. And when they decide to, they fire the head coach. So it's not as if you're interviewing, to prove your credentials as an NFL head coach, and then you go into a pool and then all the teams are kind of considering you. No team could be considering Josh McCown as head coach except for the Houston Texans, but that would be enough. The Houston Texans could hire him as head coach if they wanted to. They could hire me. They could hire you. They could hire Bill. They could do whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to impugn. I'm sure we would all make excellent head coaches.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
You have to know your limitations, right?
No.
I'm just saying they're private businesses, and they ultimately have an owner, a chairman of the board, and then a leadership structure, however that is on different teams. Obviously, we just heard about how the Bears' leadership structure needed to be brought into the modern age, and hopefully we've done that with these hirings. But yeah, it's one person ultimately at the top, and one person can hire whoever he or she will in 30 cases, 29 cases maybe. And that's one of the areas of relief in the Flores suit, is some kind of more standardized metric for hiring. But I mean, my personal view here is that I don't know. I don't know if you're going to be able to create the right policies, the right set of guidelines and regulations and incentives that can free people, private business owners, of what they want to do. And if what they want to do is racist, I don't know. I don't know how you policy that out, because we just saw what happened with Mike McDaniel. And that is a case of meeting the letter of the law, but certainly not the spirit of the law. And I don't know that there is an answer there. It's got to be through ownership, and even that is difficult. We'll see this play out with Byron Allen. And that is difficult because you need approval from other owners.
Well, also, this is a league that they created by themselves, for themselves. The problem is they needed me to make it work, okay? I mean, Black people. And what has to happen, I think that, for someone as great as Deion Sanders not to be tapped for anything is insane. I'm so glad that he has gone to an HBCU and he is opening the doors for these top athletes in basketball and football, in the income driving sports, to now consider and go to Black colleges. It's going to be a game changer if this trend continues for Black colleges to get the monies that the Michigan States and the University of Michigans and the Ohio States, all of these schools that have been built that are not superior to any of these Black schools. It will be a game changer. It would be a game changer. And I hope that that's where Mr. Flores will go. I do. He does not need to sit around and beg these people for an opportunity. That, I mean, it's clearly there is no meritocracy here. I mean, Jack and Bill. I mean, that's not what we're looking at.
As Jack said,
no, it's not.
It's not.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry about
closed
that.
system. No, I was just going to repeat what you said. Closed system.
It is a close. I mean, so what do you do?
It's not a meritocracy so to some degree it is a meritocracy on the field. Although obviously we have seen high profile cases where that's not the case. But I think that, Santita, you brought up a really important point. And I think it's something that is very important that sports fans need to think about. And that is that after a playing career, there's some degree of merit-based selections on the playing field to a degree, because you can see who's faster than who. You can see who can jump higher than who. You can see who seems to have those intangibles that are always making the big play. You know, I think about, obviously we talk about Tom Brady. I think about Larry Fitzgerald in 2008, where it just somehow, when the game was on the line week after week into the Super Bowl, it was always Larry Fitzgerald. It was something more than just the fact of, oh, he's got great hands, or he runs this 40. There's something in Larry Fitzgerald that's just special. And as a fan, you kind of watch it and you can see it. But after that point, when people leave the field and when they retire, the system becomes even more closed off. And I think it's important to think about racial discrimination in sports, not just in terms of what's happening in coaching, but it's coaching, it's executives, it's scouting, it's the press, it's, you know, the way that reporters, the makeup of reporters is also very important for understanding what stories get told and how. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it was Steve Weich, a black reporter, who first asked Colin Kaepernick about why he was seated. I don't think it's a coincidence that we saw Jim Trotter lay out beat by beat the history of, up to the present day, of NFL hiring practices a couple of days ago for Roger Goodell, and make Roger Goodell answer what was both a detailed and then at the very end, a very direct and plain question. I don't think that's a coincidence that it's Jim Trotter doing that. So it goes beyond just coaching. The question is, there's an entire ecosystem, there's an entire economy of sports, of professional sports, that goes beyond the field of play. And the question is, who has the opportunities to make a career in sports after the age of, 25, 30, 35, whatever point at which an NFL career ends, and different positions end at different ages. After that point, you've got an entire life, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70s of different job opportunities. And who are those opportunities open to?
Well, I mean, or you need to be a white guy who coaches his child's high school team. I mean,
precisely.
I think that's great, but they would not give a black man that opportunity, and that's the problem. And they don't go to these Hall of Famers. These Hall of Famers who could surely coach. Goodness gracious, they could recruit. They should be in the C-suites. They know what you need to build a team. They're not asked to do anything. As a matter of fact, they're blocked. I mean, because the gentleman who is now going to be the coach of the Miami Dolphins, he looks like the doe in headlights. Like, what am I doing here? I'm not mad at him. I'm just saying, it's just because it's an opportunity for him. But I'm just saying, I guess I'm asking each of you, and I'm going to give you a couple of minutes each. Where do we go from here? I mean, where do we go from here? You, Bill Keys, what do you see? What do you think should happen?
I would remind everyone that all sports teams are in a municipality. Their practice facilities as well as their stadiums, and they have cut deals, whether it's with banks and loans, whether it's with tax credits, whether it's with taking over blocks, large swaths of land, and getting favored status in order to grow or occupy a particular city. So they are beholden to those municipalities and to those states. I would also remind everyone that, incredibly, the NFL is a nonprofit, so it has a with federal oversight, or just at a minimum, laws, rules, and regulations, and that they are not as autonomous as they are and as closed a system as it is. I'm not an expert in those municipalities or in nonprofit rules and regulations, but the NFL does not exist on an island. It exists in the U.S. and depends on municipalities, states, and has a relationship with federal rules and regulations, and thereby has to adhere, just like any other company or billion-dollar industry, and has to answer to Congress and to other leadership bodies. And I think that is the answer to the question you're asking, Santita, in terms of where do we go and how do we pull some of this in line.
Well, because they do exist because of taxpayer support. No question. I mean, and should I say supplementation, augmentation. I mean, at least Green Bay is naked with it, okay? The people own a piece of the team. They own the team, but really, between tax abatements, tax deals, and all of that, cuts. Did you know that the NFL is a nonprofit, everybody? It's a nonprofit. Unbelievable. Jack, the last 2 minutes belong to you.
Okay, so the NFL did, I don't want to be a stickler. The NFL did, as far as the reporting was, I guess I've never looked at any of the NFL's actual documentation, but the NFL did drop its tax exempt status in 2015, for whatever that's worth. But I overall...
How long have they existed by that time?
They became they held that for 73 years.
Okay. It's like the robber barons, when they didn't have to pay taxes.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. And I want to put a fine point on it, but that having been said, 2 minutes, they belong to you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's baffling as to how long they had that. What is the answer? It's got to be at a certain point, and this is the big question. I don't know how you do this, but it's got to be black ownership in the NFL. Franchise, it can't even be the commissioner. The commissioner ultimately works for the owners. Commissioner, anytime you see Commissioner Goodell kind of get out in front and release a memo or release a statement or take a press conference.
Oh, Jack?
He just dropped.
Oh, he just dropped. Oh, my goodness. Well, I can say this. Anytime you see the NFL commissioner jumping out in front, there's something rotten in Denmark. There's something. You can bring it back up. Oh, Jack?
Jack was making the point, Santita, that the commissioner is an employee of the owners.
So he is their mouthpiece, effectively. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's right.
And that's the point, I believe. Hopefully Jack will be back in a minute, but just stepping in to try to complete his thought, which I believe is the point he was making. The commissioner is an employee of the 30 or 32 owners.
Do you think that in 20 seconds, do you think that having this hip hop extravaganza, do you think that will help them in terms of their PR? The halftime show.
30.
No, I think some.
My tongue is in my cheek.
Performance.
If you were looking at me on Facebook right now, my tongue.
Okay, good.
Okay, I was just, being a little snarky. I mean, when I heard them trying to explain that yesterday, I love Dr. Dre and I love Snoop and Mary J. At least they didn't have her saying anything else like, "That's right, sis. Stay out of this. Sing that song, rock that mic, and don't say a word. Just do your thing, and y'all move on over." Because this is above your pay grade. This is either you fight for human and civil rights all the time, or you just don't do it. There's some people who do this for a lifetime, and Roger Goodell and those owners don't want to talk to them. They want to talk to people who don't know how to talk to them, who don't know what's going on. The NFL has been a nonprofit for more than 70 years. They've existed on your back and because of you. Because of you. Think about that. Come with me onto the Santita Jackson and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Let's talk about this just for a few more minutes. Oh, I mean, really. When I saw them yesterday, I was like, oh, okay, I hear you, but this is insulting. They would never have country singers, and they wouldn't have Michael Bublé talking about something of social import. They wouldn't do that. You understand what I'm saying, Bill?
Yeah, I absolutely do. It's been interesting to watch the trajectory or lack thereof of the Jay-Z influence or relationship with the league. I'm still waiting to, and I'm speaking to that because he's directly responsible for bringing, my understanding is that he's directly responsible for bringing this incredible talent to the halftime show. And of course, the oddity of what's happening with the black coaches and players in the league. Colin Kaepernick still exists. He did not go away.
Hold on one second.
Yet,
Paul, are you there? Okay, because Jake is trying to get back on. Okay, but keep on talking. I'll try and I wish I could control that from here, but I can't. But you were saying, Bill?
Just the confluence of events, which is unfortunately stereotypical with the halftime entertainment overseen or brought to us by Jay-Z, who's obviously trying to enter and make a difference in the league. But while that happens, the status quo of the league on the business side rears its ugly head. And so the timing is poetic and ironic.
Poetic? Oh, okay. That, I just, I'm glad that they're doing the halftime show. But you know this, you've worked for Reverend Jackson. You know how this works. There's some people they don't want to talk to. Okay? Right?
Absolutely.
There's some people
Yes.
they don't want to talk to. And shame on them. Do not sit me down. I love Snoop. I think he's a great artist. I think Dr. Dre is a great artist. I think Mary J is a great artist. But I don't want to sit down and talk to them about the inner workings of the NFL and how we achieve fairness. Because our civil rights leaders are very studied people. They're very studied. And it's insulting for you to put them before me as the answer to the problem and people with the answers. Because I know who's feeding them the information. And I don't like that.
But Santita, to the artist's credit, they were, before the Flores story broke, they were hired for a halftime show.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the only thing. Yeah, that's the only thing they're doing. They're not an answer or an antidote to any of the ills of the league. And I guess in addition to their halftime performance, no, the owners are not engaging leadership that actually has experience in and can challenge and also help with solutions and help with solutions and remedies to what is obviously ailing the league. And I would say very consciously, the owners are not doing the right thing.
And they're not.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know they're not. And I think we have to be honest about that. We have to be very honest. Paul, are you in there? Don't know where he is, but I was trying to get Jack on because he was trying to give us some closing thoughts for what he had to say. And so let me do that. Hold on one second since we're off here. But, I think that...
Jack said he couldn't be on.
Okay, because he just texted me and said that he wanted to be back on. So, okay.
He told me he was watching his daughter and that it was a good time to break off.
Thanks so much. Well, he said that the phone dropped on him. So that's why I was trying to get back with you. But let me get some closing thoughts from you, Bill Keys. I mean, because it's, I'm just saying I don't like to be toyed with. And I think that in order for us not to be toyed with, there's some things that we're going to have to do, Black people. And, sometimes you need to walk away from something. A lot of these settlements that the United States have tried to give to the indigenous community, they have refused. I mean, you could not compensate them monetarily. So there are billions of dollars waiting to be claimed by different indigenous nations because they said, what you've done to me, the genocide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you can't pay me back for that. And I think that, these folks need to go on and follow, at least in Brian Flores' case, follow Deion Sanders. Because I have been to the Bayou Classic. I've been to these big games of these HBCUs. If we're one of the 10 largest economies in the world, Black America. Build your own stuff. Yeah, I'm saying that. Build your own stuff. And in the meantime, you should still fight the NFL and Major League Baseball for your fair share because you can't exist without me. And how dare you continue to go past me? It's insulting. And people need to have an insult level. Bill, you mean to tell me after you've busted up my knees and everything, there's no place for me, but you find someone who's a high school coach and you put him in line for this multi-million-dollar job? Are you serious?
Yeah, it's there's no gray in it, and it's an industry profession that's very statistically naked, and so I appreciated Jack and his not only his historical analysis, but not his historical facts that he cited, but his statistical analysis. So the same way we rate players and the yards they ran and the completions they've thrown, also the mistakes and the racism behind the amount of black players on the field and the lack of black faces in the C-suites and coaching and vendor relationships and throughout the entire industry. I appreciated Jack for speaking to that and for pointing it out. And it is as obvious as Brady or Mahomes' talent, and something has to be done about it.
Yeah, because they'll walk out of this game and they'll be owners if they want to be. I mean, that's the track for them. I had the privilege. Well, I mean, look, Gale Sayers, the iconic. He and the two iconic players. Well, you have Dick Butkus, to be fair. You have a few, but I mean, when you think of the Chicago Bears, you think of Gale Sayers and Walter Payton. Do you not? Did they make their money with the Bears after their careers? No. Gale Sayers went into the tech field and did extremely well. And Walter Payton had a diverse array of businesses. That is absolutely unfair. And it happens over and over and over again. And you bring in these people who do not have the experience, and they certainly do not have the technological know-how of the game that these great black players have. And they are put right in front of them. These guys are not even given the opportunity. And it is insulting. It is insulting. And then you bring an entertainer before me to explain your case. What? No, I have an insult level, Bill. And we're on Facebook now, yes. And I got an insult level.
You are absolutely right, Santita. You're hitting it on the head. And the what's next question and how it is addressed is incredibly important. And we all tend to bypass sustained action or attention, and we're drawn to the Super Bowl, but we don't stay on or stay with issues like this, and certainly not in a mass way. And so I can no longer be a fan and give the league either my money or my time or ratings by watching them on TV if they're not going to respect me as a fan, as former participant. It's just, just not something I can do.
It's insulting. I mean, Joyce makes the point. Remember the Negro black baseball team? You know what? Let me tell you something. Joyce, we had an opportunity to desegregate baseball, but also to keep the black baseball league so that they would have been a competing league with Major League Baseball. But because sometimes our thinking is not completely right, because we think that white ice is colder, white water is wetter. We let our whole business system, our whole business go so that we could run and be part of Major League Baseball. That was not smart. That's why I'm making the argument, making the case. You all need to exit stage left and go to these black colleges and then bring this top black talent who would otherwise go to these predominantly white institutions, bring them to all these black schools and come up with your own Sugar Bowl. Come up with your own Rose Bowl. Do that. And let me tell you, then the Rose Bowl would want to compete with you. It's just like any relationship. When you are in love with someone, when you love someone, they never want you. You demagnetize them because you're needy for them. You don't need them. You're needy for them. Let that go. When you stop, when you feel that you're enough, everybody's running after you. When you feel you're enough. When you're not begging someone else for their stuff. Yes, Bill, I had to go off for a hot second.
No, I appreciate it and learn from what you said. And I was just my last comment before I have to drop off is just that we didn't overly, with the exception of the HBCU conversation, we didn't get into the NCAA and college football and sports, which is a whole other closed, a lot more moving parts, but a whole other closed system and multi-billion-dollar industry. So there's a lot there.
Absolutely, there is a lot there, and we need to have these conversations if we're going to have true, equity in this system. You got to have that conversation. Got to have that conversation, and you have to be willing to take the hit, as Brian Flores says, not just come in and take the spoils. And benefit from his hard work and him being blacklisted, quite frankly. You have to be willing to make some kind of sacrifice, and you need to have an insult level. You need to be tired of being the first and the only when you get in the room. I am so tired of that. Yeah, when you have all of this fertile territory out here, these HBCUs, you have not lived until you get down to the Super Bowl in New Orleans and get to that Bayou Classic and see 100,000 black college football fans cheering and watching the halftime show with the duel of the bands. Yeah, build that. Right. Build your thing. And Reverend took you. Build your thing. That's what you need to do. And let them see how this works without you. How about that? Let them see. I'm tired of begging people to include me when I have built you. It's just like, don't even have the discussion with me about the United States of America. Black people built this. Oh, no, immigrants. No, immigrants came in. I cleared the land and I built the country so immigrants could come in and build on top of me. But this country was built by enslaved people from stolen land from indigenous people, period. Stop with these lies. That's how this worked. And then everybody else came in and took advantage of opportunity. But I don't have the story twisted. Let's untwist that knot, because that's not true. This country was the indigenous people's country. We stole it from them. We took it from them. We never lived up to a treaty. You brought in Africans, you enslaved them, and we built the country. And then we brought in immigrants who were able to take advantage of what we had built and build their wealth. I'm not mad at anybody, but let's get this story right. Let's get this story right.
Well, Santita, I just want to say thank you. For your forum and your platform and for what you do. I learned a lot from Jack and from you today, and hope I was helpful. I listen to you regularly, and thank you for everything.
Oh, look, I thank you. I thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your brilliant contributions to this conversation today, and I thank you for all of your encouragement down through the years when we were living in New York, having a good time years ago. Don't you miss the little parties that I used to have?
Yes, I do.
But this is before you got married and had kids. But we would just have the girls running around. That's all, because all we did was have some food and some big fun, and we talked and just we really had a great time. Really had a great time. God bless us. God bless everybody.
Yes,
Few of
we
us are
did.
gone now, but you know what? It's all good. Candace and I were talking about that right before she passed. We were laughing about some of the little get-togethers we would have, and boy, we did have a good time.
Yes, we did.
Oh, I love you, Bill. Please give my love to Sheba and the young ladies. Excuse me, I can't believe you have children in college. Oh my God.
Yeah, time does not stop.
Oh man, I'm like I sang at your wedding, and what happened? When did this happen?
Yes, you did.
When did this happen? Oh man.
So
okay.
Thank you again. I'm going to check in with you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I look forward to speaking to you next.
Oh man, God bless you. Love you, Bill. And everybody, I love you.
Take care.
I'll see you on Keep Up Alive this weekend on on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm sure we'll probably be talking about this. I don't know what Reverend wants to talk about, but I will find out shortly. But let's get these stories right. You know, let's get these stories right, and let's start thinking of doing things in a new way, right? So that we can get things right. You know, I am so glad that this unfairness is being exposed. It's being exposed because the owners need to know that they can't be great until they do things right. My grandmother Gertrude said that there is one way, it's the right way. That's it. That's it. One way, the right way. Think about that, everybody. I love you. I'll see you on Monday. God bless you. And if you want to get your vittles for the Super Bowl, remember, call Chapearl at 708-526-4546. 708-526-4546. 708-526-4546. So love you, love you, love you, love you, love you, everybody. And love all your comments, bless your heart. You know, I have to have my rants every now and then, but you know, I just want us to get these stories right. Get them right. That's it. And we'll all win when we tell the truth. So how about that? Love you. See ya on Sunday on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. And again here on Monday. Bye-bye.